actually feel pretty stoked about seeing her here. But I'd like to introduce to you Jill Stein, who's a Green candidate from the... Yes, for those of you who are unfamiliar, she is one of the, in fact, just learned today that she's on the official ticket. And I'd like to just introduce her and let her share with you what her thoughts are here. This is the first time we've ever got to see her out in Indian country, so I'm really pleased to share and introduce you, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you. I just want to say a big thank you. And I just want to reaffirm how absolutely life-changing and world-changing your work is here at Standing Rock. You should know that the world is standing with you at Standing Rock because you are standing for all of us. We know that. The world knows that. The whole world is watching. The whole world watched how the bulldozers came out and desecrated these sacred lands and did a sneak attack in the dark of night and came up and just committed treachery. The world saw how the dogs were brought out to, to terrorize people and brutalize people. And the world, I think, is being woken up to the outrageous, toxic, poisonous, deadly pipeline that we must all stop. And we are so grateful to you for being the ones who are standing up and leading the charge. So I want to give you a big, huge thank you and assure you that we will do everything in our power. I will do everything in my power to bring support and people and resources here to continue this fight until you prevail and we prevail and we shut down this pipeline. And we are calling on President Obama to withdraw the permit, to take back this illegitimate permit given by the Army Corps of Engineers, which is illegitimate. It is an illegitimate permit because it neglected to get informed consent from this community, from the Standing Rock Sioux. And that is a violation of international human rights that calls for the informed consent of any indigenous community before this kind of infrastructure is built. So we're telling the president, cancel that permit. This is an illegitimate permit, and it's not okay for the president or for anyone else to allow this pipeline to go forward. It's very much all of us who are in the target here. Of course, Standing Rock Sioux are most immediately in harm's way here. If that pipeline spills this toxic Bakken oil into the river, of course that's it for the drinking water here. And it's unacceptable that the route was moved from a different route that put the water supply at risk for Bismarck. That wasn't acceptable. And then they just shifted it to put the water supply at risk here for this community and millions of people downstream. This has to be stopped in order to protect the water. It must be stopped in order to protect the sacred sites and the traditional indigenous lands. And it must be stopped in order to protect Mother Earth and the climate, which is very much imperiled. The clock is ticking. We cannot allow more destruction of the climate. We have to start shutting down the pipelines, not building new ones. And thanks to our indigenous communities all over the country who've been leading the charge to stop new fossil fuel infrastructure, and the Lummi Nation in the Northwest, who just recently stopped a new coal export terminal. The indigenous nations have really been leading the charge all over, stopping the Keystone Pipeline. Yes, so we do have the power. There's a famous saying from the poet Alice Walker. The saying is, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. Well, I think the people here at this community, in this gathering, know that we do have the power. And that's why we're going to stop this pipeline. But here's another way that we have the power. Things are not working so well out there in the economy for working people. Average wages right now are just barely above the poverty level. The jobs that were sent overseas have not come back. The jobs that disappeared during the Wall Street meltdown, those jobs have not come back. It's insecure, part-time, low-wage jobs that have come back. So American people of all stripes now are being thrown under the bus. We know, in fact, that the lower 50% has 1% of the wealth. A crumb. A crumb is what is being allowed now for half of the people of America. Do not have enough to survive on. Meanwhile, 22 very super rich people hoard half of the wealth of this country. So this cannot last. This is not going to last. The house of cards is coming down. Whether we look at the climate or our water supplies or our food or our jobs or the health care that we should have. We deserve health care. Everyone should have health care in this country as a human right through a Medicare for all system that takes the money, instead of giving it to the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies. Instead, those dollars go into health care, real health care for everyone, not this profiteering and this paper pushing and this extortion for the rich CEOs. Everyone could have health care for the price that we're paying now. Another way that we have power. There are 43 million young people right now who are locked into student loan debt and can't get out of it. And then many more who cannot afford to go to college in the first place because the cost is skyrocketing. You may remember we bailed out, not we, but the guys in Washington, they bailed out the crooks on Wall Street when they crashed the economy. They bailed them out to the tune of $16 trillion. So we're saying it's about time to bail out the students who are trapped in this student loan debt without an economy to be able to pay it back. We say it's time to bail them out. We can do that. It costs a tiny fraction of what we already, came up with for Wall Street. So if we bailed out the crooks, it's time to bail out their victims. And the good news about that, that's 43 million people. That is actually a winning chunk of the presidential vote. So a lot of people are very unhappy right now with the two major party choices. In fact, they are the most disliked and untrusted in history for very real reasons that I don't want to go into now. I'm really not here to electioneer, but I want to affirm for you that there's a lot of unhappy campers out there who feel like the climate has been thrown over the cliff, who feel like our economy is working for the elite and not for everyday people, who feel like people cannot afford to go to college now. But you can't survive in this economy without at least having community college or going to a trade school. And people are going into big debt now and they can't pay it back. So I just want to assure you, there's a lot of unhappy campers out there that are looking for a better way. And that better way is a way that puts people and the planet and peace over profit. When we stand up for what's right, we find, wow, we have all the numbers that it takes, and we have the solutions that it takes. So they want us to think that resistance is futile. They want us to think that we have to bow down to these pipelines and to this student debt and to this health crisis because we can't afford health care. But we say, no, we can actually fix this. There are real solutions within our reach. And when we stand together, like how we're standing together here at Standing Rock, and when we stand up with the courage of our convictions, we cannot be stopped. We have the numbers, we have the power, and we have the moral compass that we must have. Democracy is not who do we hate the most or who are we the most afraid of. If that's all democracy is, then we have lost our way, and we will get more of the same. More destruction of the climate, more destruction of our economy, more of these wars against terror that are creating more terror. We are not getting safer. And this military budget, it actually takes up more than half of our discretionary budget. About half of our income taxes are paying for this military budget. But what have we created with these wars? Failed states, mass refugee migrations, and worse terrorist threats. It's actually not getting better. We did a new offensive in the Middle East. We call it a peace offensive, and it starts by shutting down the weapons sales to basically everybody in the Middle East. And it starts with freezing the funding that's going to the terrorist enterprises. So we can actually shut this down. More bombs and more bullets doesn't fix it. And we say, instead of bombing black and brown people overseas, we need to start feeding and clothing and housing and educating black, brown, red, and yellow people in this country. We need to take care of our own, not make war on people all around the world, which is not making anybody safer or better off or more democracy or more women's rights or whatever you look at. It's only getting worse. We need to start a new foreign policy based on international law and human rights and diplomacy, not on military and economic domination, which has been a disaster. So this is just to say there's another way forward that creates an America and a world that actually works for all of us, which includes, for example, reparations to indigenous people for what you are due, for the land that was taken from you, from your sweat, blood, and tears that you poured into the creation of this country, and for your incredible generosity and forgiveness to be able to come together as we're coming together here, to be one people on one planet. All we've got are each other. We need each other to fight this real battle to save Mother Earth and to save humanity. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart from the incredible courage that you have shown to lead us all forward to that better day that we can all live together in peace and in justice. Thank you all so very much. We're with you. We must all win this fight together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jill, for coming. First, we'd like to say a few words, and then we'd like to honor you for being here. I'm Cara Gonzalez. I'm Chemehuevi. I'm with the Youth Council. We thank you for coming, not just by bringing resources. We thank you for that, but also for pushing back against a colonial government that we already have. And we see we are still dealing with colonization here in the United States. We are still dealing with genocide. We are still dealing with the destruction of our land and our people. And we've been seeing that for 500 years. And really pushing against that is a first step. So we have two parties who are part of the same veneer. They're the veneer of the same party, really. They're both doing destruction to the land and destruction to the people. They're the capitalist party. We live in the American capitalist system, and we need to push against that because that's a colonial system. And as people, we need to decolonize And so we push back against that. And I think that voting our conscience and not for the lesser evil is a first step. And after that, we need to start figuring out how do we push against our current American system, a government that harms us. And we find a better government for ourselves, a way that our traditional people used to organize, the way that our traditional people used to govern themselves. The way that we see it today is still colonial. And so we need to go back and we need to learn from our elders and learn from our ancestors of how to better take care of ourselves and govern our people and govern the United States. And we need to take back over and take our land and say, this is our land, and we thank you and welcome the people here, but also we know how to govern ourselves and we can govern it the best way possible. Thank you so much, Jill.